Welcome back to another episode of Healthcare Horrors. My name is Ashley Boyce. I'm a brand specialist.
My name is Alicia Carasella. I'm a training and development specialist.
And I'm Dolan on the knobs.
So today we're continuing our series of haunted hospitals and asylums in honor of October. And we have another guest. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Sara Renae, and I am a travel nurse recruiter here at Atlas MedStaff.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Have you ever been on a podcast before?
I have never been on a podcast. This is so exciting.
Woohoo! In the last episode, we had Mick on here, and this was his first podcast as well. So exciting.
Look at us. First-time podcasters. I can check this off my bucket list now.
Okay, was it really on your bucket list?
No, but it was. Like, once I got the opportunity, I was like, sure.
I knew it wasn't, like, originally, but...
Can be like a fun fact. Like, were you ever on a podcast? I can say yes now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you
sure
go.
Can.
Absolutely.
Share it with everybody.
Why did you want to be on this podcast? What stood out about this that made you want to hop in?
Of course. So I wanted to be on this podcast because I am, like, through and through crime junkie, 2020 Dateline scary story lover. If you look at my Spotify podcast, it is all crime. And I don't know why I have interest in it, but I always grew up watching Dateline with my mom. And so it has just been something that I thought was really cool and a fun opportunity. I'm a nurse. And so what better way to mix healthcare with a little bit of some crime horror story for the upcoming fall Halloween month.
Does the true crime help you sleep at night?
No, not at all.
Okay, just checking.
I have ordered those like door stoppers for my doors.
You did?
Yes.
So smart.
Because of a Dateline that I watched.
That's what I
so
have.
I think it's like, you never know.
Yeah.
Well, exciting to have you here.
So like I said last time, we had Mick White on the podcast, and we talked about Utica State Hospital. Today, we are going to jump into Royal Hope Hospital in St. Augustine, Florida. And you said you picked this one because you've been to Florida, or what about Florida stood out to you?
Yes, so I've been to Florida. So the other ones I was not very familiar with. And so I have family in Florida. I've been to Florida, not necessarily specifically in St. Augustine, but just a little bit more to relate to the area. And then I obviously briefed myself and looked at all the pictures of the hospital too. So I feel like I can put myself there mentally a little bit when we're talking about this. So I'm excited.
I have a question. Have you run any half marathons or marathons in Florida?
No.
How's your grandma?
Yes, they have.
Oh, I knew it. So, fun fact, the day before Sarah started, she ran a half marathon or a marathon?
A marathon.
A marathon in Hawaii.
Ooh.
And then hopped on a red eye and started training the next day.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It was, yes. Think about the lactic acid in your legs.
Sitting on an
after you run
airplane.
an untrained marathon.
She didn't train for it.
I was like, my muscles were really, really hurting on that red eye.
That's
man.
a hard way to start a new job, but you came in crashing in like
We
the
did
Kool-Aid
it.
man.
Hey, you and I got to bond over it.
We did.
It was great. It was great.
We just put out a piece of content about one of Jasmine Troubay's travel nurses that ran she does a lot of Ironman competitions, and her first full Ironman she did in Florida. So the swimming in the ocean and not realizing you have to fight the current and or sharks.
There are sharks in the ocean.
And she was just talking about how hard that was, and she didn't really think about that before she signed up for her first one in Florida. So
my family is very crazy. My mom and my grandma have done a marathon in every state now.
Wow.
And then my uncle's record is 5 Ironman in 5 days.
She comes from a family of athletes.
Yes. And then we do every year for New Year's, we do a 24-hour race. So you run for 24 hours, like running into the new year. This is like my family bonding. Some people like drink with their families or like play card
You guys
games.
run.
Mine like run for 24 hours.
That's so
We're like
healthy.
turkey trot like on steroids.
They are.
But yeah, if you guys ever want any like marathon podcasts or anything like that, I'll send my grandma your way.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Seriously.
We're gonna have to do some
It'd be fun.
Atlas Outdoors stuff with you, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
But for now, we're gonna keep talking about true crime and haunted stuff. So
Love it.
let's dive into Royal Hope Hospital. And like I said, just jump in here and there with whatever you might want to throw in, comments, facts.
Do we
anything.
staff this hospital? Do we know?
I hope not.
No.
Is it closed?
It is. It's
I'll
not.
do a little bullhorn search.
Yeah. Let's see if we staff this.
You'll just have to find out, Dolan.
Okay.
Okay.
Just listen to us. Just do your job.
Royal Hope Hospital was built in St. Augustine, Florida in the late 1700s. So this is probably one of the oldest places we've ever talked about.
Mm-hmm.
St. Augustine is one of the oldest cities in Florida, and this is definitely the oldest hospital. When it was first built, it was called Our Lady of Guadalupe because there was a lot of Spanish settlers in the area. And then I'm not really sure why it became called Royal Hope Hospital. Maybe when the English settlers came over, maybe they
It was the British.
renamed it. Yeah. Just blame the British.
Yeah.
And eventually the hospital does get demolished in the early 19th century. But before we move that far into the story, we're going to talk about the Civil War a little bit. During the Civil War, Florida was one of the most populated Confederate states. It was actually one of the suppliers of the Confederacy. So there were two major battles fought in Florida during the war, leaving the ground soaked with blood and the hospital tending to many military patients. There were a lot of amputations, different operations, bandages, and a lot of death in that area from very early on.
What time frame are we in?
Okay, yes. Civil War happened between 1861 and April 1865, so that's where we're at right now. So we're going to rewind even more. Before the Civil War, there were the Seminole Wars, and those took place between 1816 and 1858. So the Seminole Wars were between the English settlers and the native people that were already living in that part of the U.S., aka the Seminoles. So General Andrew Jackson led the first Seminole War, and I'm just going to kind of touch base on the Seminole Wars, but he led the first Seminole War, which led to a lot of the natives and black native towns to be destroyed and led to people being enslaved. The Second Seminole War began when Andrew Jackson then became president, put into effect the Indian Removal Act, asking natives to flee and relocate to Indian reservations. But some of them fought back, leading to the wars. After a third Seminole War, many natives fled to the Everglades or land that was just unwanted by settlers. When the Spanish settlers originally came to Florida in the 1500s, it sounds like, for the most part, everyone kind of lived in peace until the British came over.
I have a fun fact.
What's up?
I don't know if it's fun, but it's a fact. St. Augustine was one of the few places in the United States where Abraham Lincoln's emancipation, oh my God, words are so hard. Emancipation Proclamation was issued in 1862, actually freed any slaves.
There's a lot of history about Florida that you don't really remember or think about until you start diving into this.
No, there's so much history for this place before this hospital even comes to be. I have so much history dating back to the 1500s even. So just the Seminole Wars and then the Civil Wars and fun facts about Abraham Lincoln and the ending of slavery. So
Yeah.
Whenever I was reading through it, I was like, there is so much history behind this specific hospital. And obviously Florida as well as what you guys just said. But I feel like before I even got to the like the ghost story or like the haunted story behind the hospital, I loved all the backstory and the history that was provided through the Civil War and through kind of why is it haunted, and it kind of took us through a little history lesson. So I think that was something that was awesome, and I'm glad that we're exploring that now.
yeah, it gives a lot of context about what comes next.
Yeah, you definitely have to understand the history of everything. So with the Seminole Wars, there was a lot of deaths of a lot of the native people there. Civil War, a lot of death in general. So we fast forward to the hospital eventually being demolished. And the hospital does get rebuilt, not necessarily as a hospital, but more just a museum. And so the construction workers or plumbers, I guess, people checking the piping for the city find a lot of human remains, like thousands of bodies worth of human remains. And then it becomes apparent that the hospital was built on an Indian burial ground, and they are disturbing those graves.
Oh, geez.
I saw somewhere whenever I was researching this, it looked like they built an exact replica of the hospital that they took down too, which I thought was a cool, like a little bit interesting of a fact. I was like, that's interesting that they had the opportunity to build something new and then built the exact replica. Cool tidbit.
Well, and I think no wonder it's haunted. It's built on an Indian burial ground, and then it's also was a military hospital for over 40 years. So people are dying. People are already dead, and people are dying.
When we first started digging into the hospital and I saw that it was demolished and rebuilt, I was like, okay, so they rebuilt a modern hospital over it, and that's haunted. But then, yeah, you start doing more digging and you see pictures of it and you're like, oh, it's just a museum of what was once there back in the day.
And I think one thing we can touch on too is I feel like a military hospital is so different than a regular hospital. It's going to see so much more death and amputations and gunshot wounds, as well as the psychiatric element also of a military hospital that you wouldn't necessarily have in a regular community hospital. That I think that adds another layer of death and just an added element there that we can also touch on too.
Yeah, it's a different emotion. There's a lot more of emotion and anger, stress, different
energy,
different kind of sadness. And a lot of the tribe, or a lot of the human remains that were found there was from the Timucuan Native American tribe. And, you know, I even kind of went down that rabbit hole a little bit. They're still trying to see if, you know, once a lot of them fled the area, they're trying to see if any relatives of this tribe are still, like, maybe in Cuba and stuff. There's just, like, so many different rabbit holes to go down.
That's crazy.
I don't know, maybe you guys do. Did they remove any of the remains once they found them?
I don't know. I didn't
they
see
leave
anything
them?
about that.
Okay.
Just that they found a lot.
Yeah. But, like, you would think they would want to remove them, but also you shouldn't remove them, you know?
Yeah.
So
I almost see both sides of that. I see the side of, yes, they would want to remove them, but at the same time, I think we can look at it from a different lens, and they should build the hospital somewhere else. If you're building it on a Native American burial ground, then I feel like we shouldn't move the bodies, but we should move the facility.
Right.
Yeah, that was someone's good idea fairy coming to haunt. That's what they say in the military, the good idea fairy. Every time something bad happens or a bad idea comes out, it's a good idea fairy.
do you want to get into the list of some of the hauntings?
I
that are there?
do. And Sarah, feel free to join in at any point. But I have some specific hauntings at the Royal Hope. And the first one is the morning room. The morning room was used by family members of the dead to sit in silence and remember their loved ones after saying goodbye. The room is filled with the hospital's priests' tools for blessing dead or dying patients. Disembodied voices are heard in the room praying, sobbing, and moaning. An unbearable feeling of despair is also reported.
Dang, so it's like still
haunted,
the morning
haunted.
room.
Yeah.
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 The haunted morning room.
It never stopped being the morning room for sure.
Jeez.
And we have the surgeon's office. This room is home to a spirit who likes to grab on to visitors' clothes and refuses to let them go. Dolan is definitely not going here. He's a scaredy cat. His grasp is described as freezing cold, hard, and forceful. One visitor stated that she could feel a large hand gripping her clothing, refusing to let go. The only way to shake it off was to run out of the room as quickly as possible. Luckily, the clinging spirit did not follow her out.
No spirit attachments. They just want to stay there.
I know.
Yeah.
In the previous episode, Mick touched a haunted statue, by the way. So if you're ever wondering what's wrong with Mick, he touched a haunted statue.
He's cursed.
He's
for
cursed.
I was reading on this, and this hospital is actually a museum now. I don't know if you guys did research and saw that, but it's actually a museum now. So people will go, and you can read like testimonials, kind of about people who have gone to the museum. And so a lot of people are like, I didn't believe in ghosts until I went to the Royal Hope Hospital Museum. So that must be very intense if someone like didn't believe in ghosts and then they went to this hospital and they're suddenly like, okay, I 100%.
Yeah.
Well,
And they
imagine.
specifically said that it was the morning room. Like that was the one.
I don't know if I could handle that room. I'm all for hauntings.
I don't think I could. No. I think I'm good with like the hearsay. I don't think I need to experience it for myself at all.
Same.
No.
I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, definitely.
We'll send Dolan and then he can report back to us.
He's not going in without me or Ashley.
He's the last person going in by himself.
He needs us. So the next room is the ward. So many of the beds in the ward are reported to move on their own. Get me out of here. The beds scoot out with force and hit visitors in the shins. They rearrange themselves overnight and shake from side to side. Visitors also report being scratched and hit in the head in this area of the hospital.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dolan's like, Mom would never go.
I wonder if they
People
have
also
cameras.
said,
What'd you say?
so scary. People also said that like in this room, the ghosts would like stand up and look them in the eyes and then vanish.
No thanks.
That's what the tour people would say.
Oh man.
Hard
They
pass.
had to look
It's
him in the eyes before they
if
vanished.
something stood up, looked you in the eyes, and then just like vanish out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel awkward when I come to eye contact with random people, like,
Not even dead ones.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the thing. Like when I make eye contact with random people, I need to vanish, right?
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that's the thing, right?
Yeah, you just need to disappear.
I just need something like medium scary, not all the way scary.
Medium.
Yeah. No.
Can I take a medium haunted tour, please?
As the kids would say these days, can that scare be mid?
Oh,
my
gosh.
Fair.
And you're fired.
I'm fired. You don't have the power to fire me.
Oh.
Maybe from this podcast. But next room is the apothecary. The apothecary was used to store medicines that would later be dispensed at to Royal Hope's patients. Reports of shadows darting from wall to wall and the sound of a sobbing spirit are often heard. Sobbing?
That's sad.
Jeez.
But what is an old hospital without an apothecary? You know?
I know. And sobbing.
And
honestly.
sobbing.
Other notable ghostly occurrences include full apparitions, clear and discernible voice recordings, moving objects, unexplained bruises, and hearing disembodied voices screaming the words help, and indecipherable words of Spanish origin. Orbs are also a popular occurrence at the hospital, and they are known to follow visitors around the hospital and even have been reported in visitor cars as they leave. So, like, it's attaching to you as you leave. So, like, the property. So, it's definitely something going on with the land, not just the hospital.
So, the Spanish thing is interesting because it being built over an Indian burial ground, you think you'd hear more of that? Question mark?
Okay, so let's rewind here. I'll give you a little history.
It's more history because I butchered the history.
No, that's what I'm curious about. Like when, like the Spanish were there.
I got you. I got this.
Cool.
So St. Augustine was actually founded in 1565. It's the oldest occupied settlement of European and African American origin in the United States. For 42 years before the English colonized Jamestown and 55 years before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, the Spanish established at St. Augustine the nation's first enduring settlement. So historians credit Juan Ponce de Leon, the first governor of the island of Puerto Rico, with the discovery of Florida in 1513. While on an exploratory trip in search of the fabled Bimini, he found the eastern coast of Florida on Easter Sunday, which fell on March 27th of that year. Ponce de Leon claimed Florida for the Spanish crown and named it Florida after the Easter season, known in Spanish as Pascua, Florida.
Huh.
So
wow,
That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Spanish
That's really
were
cool.
yeah.
I feel like I know his name, but I guess I didn't know the story.
I think I've never even heard of this. Yeah, so
I do remember reading in the midst of stuff about the hauntings that you can kind of make out some words in Spanish amongst the voices.
yeah.
Huh.
So it's not all just sobbing or screams. Like there is some actual talking being done.
That's where the Spanish comes from. So, like, St. Augustine is old.
I really want to go there just for the history. After reading through all this stuff, like...
It's even, like, kind of spookier than Salem.
Yeah.
And Salem's pretty spooky.
So, do you guys think, this is kind of an open-ended question, let me know your opinion here. So, do you guys think that whenever, like, the orbs are going with people to their car, so they're, like, following people out, do you think that they are, like, trying to keep people off of their, like, burial ground?
I don't.
Or, like, why do you think they're doing that?
I think it's, like, a property line thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
She's got to end the...
Interesting question.
I think, like, they're just along for the ride. I don't know. What would you do if you were an orb?
Just
chilling. I'll be chilling,
out.
looking for a ride. What's going on in here?
Because this isn't related to this, but another ghost story that I had heard in the past on a podcast. It was actually on a podcast. It's called Skywalker Ranch, maybe.
I know what you're talking about.
You know the one I'm talking about, and it is also based off of. This is like totally paraphrasing this, but I think it's based off some Native American lands, and they will like chase them off of their property, and like things that will occur, like tires will be smashed, equipment will be ruined, like things like that to protect their land. So I was kind of translating that to this. And do we think like, I didn't see any like violent acts or anything like that, but I mean beds running into shins and things like that, but nothing to like necessarily keep people out of the facility. But I was wondering if you guys heard in your research.
American Horror Story, the original season.
Yeah.
If you've watched that, where they're like but like they're trying to keep people out for their safety, or like this is the property line, or like they're trying to get out off the property line, because like in American Horror Story, the original season, you can't, only on Halloween can the spirits pass the property line. So maybe in my mind, they're just trying to pass the property line and get free.
To like latch on and get out.
Because imagine you died in 1565 and you can't leave.
Yeah.
and you've
Yeah.
been there for hundreds of years. So maybe that's where my mind goes. What about you guys?
I wouldn't even know where to begin how to answer that
Not
question.
his jam.
Yeah, I think if we want to speculate, there's probably hundreds of years of reasons why, right? So it might not even be one reason. It could be several, maybe if you're in that state, right, you're an orb or whatever, like you can only perform that action. I don't know. Like there's a lot of unknowns there. So yeah, I don't know. I would probably just leave it up to speculation. And I'm sure if these things, these orbs or entities or whatever you want to call them, if they have some sort of conscious, it's probably their own reasons.
Yeah, whether they're maybe just interested in a person for whatever reason, maybe that person is also open to spirits, and the idea is because then there's the people that aren't open to it, so they're not, whether they don't believe or they're just not welcoming to spirits. And then I just think any entity orb could have its own purpose for wanting to follow you, and hopefully it can't latch onto you. Sometimes they do latch onto you, whether you believe that or not.
Mick is a prime example.
Yeah.
He's regretting it now.
Yeah, good question though. I mean, I guess like that's always the biggest is like why or like what or and then
like what's the purpose? Like
right.
Yeah.
What is the reason?
Yeah.
Well, before we move on, I have a question for you too, Sarah, but before we move on, I just want to make note of how St. Augustine became a vacation town after all of this. Like, you can really see the rise of capitalism when Henry Flagler, who is a former partner of John D. Rockefeller at the Standard Oil Company, decided that he was going to make St. Augustine a winter resort for wealthy Americans.
Yeah, do you think he did his research?
No. He was just like, I see a beach, weather's nice, money. I just think like it's so fun to see the history in St. Augustine from the 1500s all the way through when it became a vacation town. It just is, the history is so interesting to me.
And there seems to be a lot of it. I mean, like, just even what we talked about, right? Like, yeah, they built this hospital on an Indian burial ground, and then, and then these people
like
conquered it,
Civil
and
War
then the
soldiers.
Spanish was there, and then the, Civil War and all of this stuff, and it's like, yeah, I could see why that'd be grounds for a lot of energy left over or whatever,
For sure.
Yeah. And if anyone's ever interested in checking it out, whether they're down there living or on assignment or whatever, they just want to take a vacation down to Florida, they can definitely go. Yeah, they can definitely go check this place out. It didn't look like it's open a certain time of year. I think you can go tour or check out the museum anytime. So, what other questions did you have?
In the daylight.
In the daylight.
In the
for
daylight.
Sure.
Why?
Scary cat. I want to know, like, what other, do you have any scary stories? Like, have you ever had any ghost encounters or anything like you believe was like not of this earth? Not aliens,
yeah, so
ghosts.
if we think of scary stories, my scary stories aren't necessarily more like ghost encounters, but they're more just like scary like life stories. I haven't necessarily had any ghost encounters, which I was thinking. I was like trying to wrap my brain and like knock on wood. Like I'm sitting at a glass table, but I need to knock on some wood after this.
You do.
But I just moved into a new condo, so I really
your background looks different. Like,
really
I know
need
it's blurred
to
out, but
I know.
It looks different.
But this is actually a perfect story for this podcast because it was Halloween night. A little preface to the story is that I lived in a house with 10 girls my senior year of college. So there were 10 of us in a house. It was like downsized. We had lived in a sorority house before, so it was
a downsize.
Small. It was downsized. So we lived with 80 people before.
80?
80 girls. 80 girls.
Oh,
and then we
man.
lived with 10 in this house.
Jeez.
And we didn't lock the doors. I mean, we locked the doors, but you can't set an alarm with 10
Sarah.
girls.
Ted
I mean,
Bundy.
it doesn't work.
I get it.
So you can't set an alarm. So we had our doors locked, and it was Halloween night. It was pouring down rain outside. I'm just trying to set the scene. And we lived like right on campus corner where like all the action was, like the bar scene and all of that. That's where we lived, right in the middle of it. And we were in for the night. There were 4 people home out of 10. And there were 3 floors. And so you can kind of hear the creaks on the different floors. If you live in a house, you know the different creaks of your own house. And someone kicked in our back door, which like kicked in is like, we're talking the door just needed a little push and you were in the house, basically.
I was like, dang,
yeah.
kicked in.
I mean, probably took a foot. Like it was locked, but like not a strong foot was needed for this door. And this man walked through our house dripping wet. So it was pouring down rain, dressed as an axe murderer with blood dripping off of his axe.
Was it fake?
And no.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. He
Sorry, I have questions.
Go ahead.
He made it all the way up to our 3rd floor. So we have 3 floors. He made it all the way up to the 3rd floor. And he was seen in the reflection of the window. So it's like you didn't even see him, saw him in the reflection. And the roommate who saw him was like, who are you and what are you doing in this house? And he was like, I'm not here to murder you. I'm just looking for a girl named Leah. And no one in our house is named Leah. We don't know Leah. And so we asked him, she said, you need to leave. Like, you need to leave the house. And so he walked down, and we only heard the creak from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor. And he never creaked from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor stairs. And there's 4 bedrooms on the 2nd floor. And so the police came. He jumped out a window or something, and they never found him. Yeah.
Are you sure that wasn't a ghost?
The
way you told that sounds fake.
Yeah. Is that not so scary?
That's terrifying.
Wait. So the blood was real blood.
How do you know?
No, it was fake blood, real.
Okay.
Fake blood, real axe.
Oh, wow. So do you think he was just trick-or-treating, tricking someone?
Yes. I think, just want to, like, think the best and think that it was just, like, a random trick-or-treater that maybe had a little too much drink and thought that we were someone's house.
Where was this at?
But yeah, police came, like, guns drawn. And, like, even when you know they aren't coming for you, like, police just surrounding your house with guns, like, isn't, like, the best feeling. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And, like, you open your front door and there's, like, guns pointed at you. Like, kind of scary.
Sarah.
So.
Where was this?
Yeah. That was in Norman, Oklahoma. At OU.
Oh, man.
At OU.
Oklahoma.
I don't know. Even as you were telling that story, I was like, this is just a perfect setup for a horror movie. And then
it is.
You talk about a guy kicking in the back door and dressed as a killer with an axe.
I'm so torn between whether I think he was real or not.
So the roommate who saw him was thankfully the most, like, chill roommate out of all of us. I would have lost my mind. I would have gone crazy crime junkie Dateline on this man. I would have gone crazy. It would have been like a mix of like my boxing like mind, like do I punch him, and then like my crime junkie mind, like all of it. But she said that she saw him later on campus. She was like, I saw the guy that broke into our house. Yeah.
So was he a student?
Yeah, he was a student. It was at a football game, and she said that she saw him.
Did she confront him? Because I would have confronted him and been like, do you remember being in my house?
She did, and he said no.
Oh,
yeah.
So
that's crazy.
He was either hiding it or he was messed up.
Yes. And, like, it makes it worse that it was on Halloween, but also a little bit better because maybe he was, like, if it hadn't been Halloween, oh, my gosh, that would have been terrifying. Yeah. But with it being Halloween, I'm like, he probably went to a Halloween
that's
party.
when they do that. That's when the creeps do that.
Maybe but also the context, like, I wish that I could show you guys a map. So, like, the context of our street is, like, very, very, like, right behind the place. It's, like, campus corner with all of the bars, all of the restaurants, all of the places that people frequent. and then a row of houses behind, and it's just like all sorority houses. So there could have been someone like a couple houses down named Leah that we just like weren't familiar with or didn't know.
I love the way that your brain is rationalizing this, and I'm like, he wasn't real. I'm the lady on the airplane.
Which I think that he was real. My biggest thing was like, was he actually looking for Leah? Is like my biggest thing. I was like, did he come in to hurt someone? Because
did anyone know anyone named Leah at all? Like, not
tell
that
me what
there.
you guys think. If you guys are going to see a friend that you know, do you take your foot through their back door?
Maybe.
Door jam. To get in to see Leah.
That was the part
if it's locked and I'm like, and it's usually open and I'm drunk, maybe.
Also, if I have a Halloween costume that involves an axe, why am I buying a real one?
Also a real one, yeah. What's up
like
with
that? And then why am I taking it to parties? And for sure, they didn't let the real axe go into the bars and the restaurants, right?
Yeah, I'm like, you must have come from a house. I don't know.
A house party where he's just wandering around with a real axe? What is happening in Oklahoma?
And it was funny because I'm so many years removed from this story, and I'm still like
puzzled.
It was like a fever dream. Like, do you guys ever have stories to you that you're like, huh?
That didn't actually
really happen?
Yeah.
It's one of those stories in my life that I'm like, the things that I'm so... If I have listened to probably, let's say, 100 Crime Junkie, probably 200 at this point. We're a heavy listener over here. So I'm like, if this happened to me now, it would not fly.
No.
Yeah.
Well, this day and age, with a lot of people having more guns in their home, like...
It's scary.
Yeah. I don't know,
Can't
man.
be doing that.
No.
I know, but just to be blatantly walking around with an axe, like a real one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think
different.
Yeah, I mean,
but even
that's exactly like, I know that you wouldn't make it through my back door with an axe. That, like, oh my
gosh,
100%. That's crazy.
And cameras. Everyone has. Not everyone, but so many people have Ring cameras now, and.
It sounds like American Horror Story Coven.
Yeah,
everything's
and
American Horror Story.
Kind of like what we were talking about earlier in the podcast. It's like, do you have the door jams? And it's like, we have a sliding glass door in this house. So my mind immediately, okay, I hear sliding glass door and I automatically think of what? You guys know it. What scary story that just happened recently?
Wait, the sliding glass door?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You got it.
West Coast. No, Ohio.
The Idaho murders.
The Idaho, yeah.
Yes.
I was like, Idaho.
That is like, my mind sees a sliding glass door and I'm like, we will get that thing locked.
every night before I go to bed. So like I have like a steel bar that goes under my front door. And then I have like the wood one, obviously, that goes on my sliding door. But I probably check it 3 times. I'll be like, okay, no, I checked it. I'll be like, did I really check it? Because I check it every day. Did I really check it? Check that. I check it all.
I know.
You have to.
Well, the hard part for me sometimes, even like, so I recently turned my basement into an apartment. And I have one of my best friends living down in the apartment. So like he's got... And the front door to this apartment goes right into the kitchen that we built right there. And before it was an apartment, I used to go downstairs and check the locks on it. And even though it's like his apartment and like he lives down there or whatever, like I still go downstairs and like make sure it's locked or whatever.
Make sure it's your house.
You can't trust anyone but yourself at this point.
That's what I'm saying. That's scary. That is terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
In fact, you keep bringing up Crime Junkie. My wife listens to a lot of Crime Junkie and My Favorite Murder, both of them. Oh,
yes.
And this actually is familiar because there is a story on one of those podcasts, I don't remember which one, where they talk about a dude breaking into like a sorority house and there's like, 10 to 12 women in there. And
is it Ted Bundy?
I was like, is it Ted Bundy?
Oh, I don't know.
Same.
But
he's like, I don't know the guy. It's Ted.
And he did that in Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez. But like, there was I think it was like all but 2 of them got murdered in this.
I think it was Ted Bundy.
This house.
It was
Is this
Ted Bundy.
Bundy?
That's Ted Bundy.
Okay. Sure.
Do you know
Maybe I
who,
heard a
Dolan,
Ted
do you
Bundy
know who
thing.
Ted Bundy is?
I do, but I never like listened to a story, and if I have, it's because
There's like a good show on Netflix about Ted Bundy.
interesting.
It's on Netflix, right?
gosh.
Isn't it? Sarah would know.
I haven't seen the show. I'm a big,
Oh, it's good.
I mean, working from home podcast girl over here is what I'm, where my jam is.
I know, I get that.
That's
Yeah, you
There's a-
just described Ted Bundy.
There's a really
okay.
good show.
Maybe it is
about-
Ted Bundy. I don't know.
I don't remember if it's on Netflix, but there is a really good show about Ted Bundy, but it's from the perspective of his girlfriend.
I think it's on Netflix.
It
There's
was
the one.
Oh.
really good, and she just, even her daughter was like, you know, we loved him. We never expected him to. You obviously don't expect someone to do those things, but coming from her perspective was really
Yeah, it's
something.
called Conversations with the Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes.
Yeah.
I remember
that's-
everybody.
That's something different.
It is?
I was gonna say I
Yeah.
remember everybody watching
Oh.
that one.
What? Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile.
Okay.
So
That
we
could
have
be
given
It
the
is.
people,
It's about Liz.
Okay.
we've given the people so many good stories today.
I know. My
Yeah.
God. Oh my God. We
Royal
got
Hope,
off top. We
a
got really
history
off topic,
lesson.
but not really.
Ted Bundy,
There
crime
you go.
junkie. I mean, guys, this is where it's at.
Yes. Wow.
Hmm.
So
All
have
the
fun this October, but everyone be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lock your doors.
Get your door jams
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and your sliding glass door jams, and
Yes,
then it'll all
do
be
it.
good.
And if you have a costume that involves an axe, like
Make it fake.
make it a fake axe.
Yeah.
Like, what
Don't
are you
wear
doing?
it. Just don't wear it.
Also, the fake
Dress up
axe
as
is
something else.
probably way cheaper than a real one.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, if the real one's already in your shed.
If it's already in your shed.
Just don't do it.
Also,
In fact,
who has a shed?
yeah, fun fact.
Do you?
It's probably easier to carry drinks without a prop with your costume than it is to carry
Probably.
your prop all night. So
Maybe he was just trying not to drink so much.
yeah, maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a shed
But he
and I
still
have an
did.
axe in my shed.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, man. All right, look out for Dolan on Halloween this year.
Dolan's like, I know my Halloween costume now.
Yeah, here we
I have
go.
it figured out.
I've got it down.
The guy that was in Sarah's house.
Oh,
Gosh.
All right.
So scary.
all right, Sarah. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you guys. It was so fun to research this story
Yeah.
and learn all the things.
Sorry
we
we
hope to
had
have
some,
you back.
Yeah, sorry we had some technical difficulties.
Oh, no worries at all. I'm here for it. No biggie.
We
It's
can't
normally
control
me
the
having them
planets.
anyways. So
Yeah, I feel that.
Awesome. So
Cool.
next time we are going to talk about the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia.
Oh my gosh.
So again, we are going to have an episode come out every week in October instead of bi-weekly.
That
So-
means
West
more
Virginia.
work for Dolan.
or
Mountain
me.
Mama.
We're taking shifts.
Are you?
In October, yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
They don't have
teamwork
any
makes
help.
the dream.
Well, thank you for being here. Thanks again.
Yeah, Sarah, have a good October.
Thank you, guys.
We'll
All right.
be
Bye.
in touch for sure.
You too. I can't wait to listen
Don't
to
do
these.
anything that the guy in Sarah's house would do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
Be
God.
smart. What do they say on Crime Junkies? Like, there's a saying. It's
You
like,
tell
be
me.
smart.
Stay safe.
I don't know.
Don't get murdered.
Stay safe.
That's
Don't get
that's
murdered.
not
That's my-
crime junkie.
that's my
yeah.
favorite
No,
movie.
my favorite
Oh,
murder
man.
is stay sexy and don't get murdered.
They blend
Please don't sue
together
us.
for me.
Please don't sense. Okay.
They are inspiration, so thank you for existing.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Healthcare Horrors, brought to you by Atlas MedStaff. Just a reminder, we are not healthcare professionals. We are just fans of true crime, talking about some of history's darkest moments in healthcare. Stay tuned, stay healthy, and stay safe. Healthcare Horrors. Murder.